Hi, everyone, and thanks for stopping by and listening to the sounds that are outside my window. Now, let's see what's going on with Kevin. He's got some updates about some stimulus money.
Hey everyone, Kevin here. A lot of us are waiting for some extra stimulus. Some of us are even still waiting for our first stimulus check. But what I did over the last 3 hours is I went through every single bill that's been submitted to Congress, whether the House, the Senate, Republicans, Democrats, and I sorted them by the ones that are getting the most traction. So in case you're wondering, what's more likely, getting $2,000 per month or $1,000 a month on a debit card or canceled rent or some of the other new proposals you haven't heard of yet, this might give you a guide because we're going to sort these by the most popular to least popular. Now, the first two that I'm going to start with are a little bit more niche, and then we get into some more broad ones. But starting with these two will show you how much support some of these bills get when they have a lot of co-sponsors. Co-sponsors are basically just other people in Congress saying, hey, that's a good idea. I'll sign my name to that, which obviously implies they're willing to vote for that. The more co-sponsors, the more attention these bills get. There's even a proposal nobody's been talking about for college students and dependents who got screwed by the last stimulus package. So let's get started and sort these with the first one that has 108 co-sponsors. This blows all of the other ones out of the water. And basically what this does is it takes Phase 2 stimulus, where we introduce paid leave for workers that, if we're an employee or we work for a small business, we are eligible for paid leave, and it applies that to federal, state, and local employees. So basically, if you work for the government, you'd have the benefit of having paid leave as well, which you might not have now. Now, of course, that one's geared to folks who are working for the government, but you can see with 108 co-sponsors, this one probably has a good likelihood of having a lot of attention in the debate coming up this week. The next one is the Reopen America Act of 2020. It has 59 co-sponsors, and it basically requests that once states have a plan for reopening and a safe reopening, like testing, treatment, and contact tracing, kind of like spying on your phone to see whom you've talked to when you check into the hospital and say, oh, I got symptoms. Basically, there's a bill for that has 59 co-sponsors and says, hey, states, if you have a plan, we're going to make the federal government pay for that. And after all, since we got Jerome Powell printing the money press every single day hardcore, and some days he's even working with both arms, there's plenty of money to go around, apparently, at least for the time being. The only thing that's been really frustrating is it's taken so long for money to get from the printing press to our pockets. Well, the next bill has 28 co-sponsors. This is one of the most popular stimulus proposals in the House right now based on co-sponsors and based on public support for it. This is the Emergency Money for the People's Act. Yes, it was submitted by a Democrat, but it proposes that each person over 16 years old gets $2,000 of stimulus per month. This is the one that would be in effect for 12 months, so it's basically like getting a $2,000 check per person for 12 months. And if you have children, then you get $500 per month for 1 to 2
I'm happy with that.
I got 2 kids, so I'd get an extra $500. No income restrictions at all, and $1,500 if you have 3 or more children. With 28 sponsors, this is the third most popular proposal right now of potential stimulus portions or pieces of the puzzle in the House at the moment. And also comparing to the Senate, where there's not as much activity. Which makes sense because the House is over 4 times the size of the Senate. Now keep in mind 2 things. These are all likely to be little pieces of a larger bill. So kind of think of like the larger bill as a basket, and then all of these bills kind of being incorporated into a big, large basket at some point. That's what I'm expecting to see this week. But again, the more co-sponsors, the more likely, in my opinion, it's going to be in that basket.
Has anyone ever seen the cartoon teaching of the bill? And I think they do it in school, but every time he says the bill, I can just see the paper guy, and he's got legs, and it's a roll of paper, and he's got eyes on like the roll, and it's like a roll of paper with 2 legs. It's just hilarious, and he's got, I think, a red ribbon around him, and he's the bill. It's just funny.
especially that one with 108 co-sponsors or 59 co-sponsors, you can bet those are going to be the first ones in the basket. But the next one in the basket is this one with the 28 sponsors, the Emergency Money for the People's Act, the one I just mentioned, the $2,000 per month. So it kind of gives you an idea, at least as to how I'm looking at how this basket's going to be formed in terms of what we can expect to be debated on. Of course, a lot of these proposals so far are proposed by Democrats, so we're going to have a little bit of a countervailing balance coming in from Republicans, and this is where we saw plans like Mitt Romney's Patriot Plan, which, keep in mind that the Patriot Pay Plan is really just a suggestion. It's not even a formal bill that was submitted to the Senate yet. It's kind of like the Heroes Plan. I'll break those down a little bit later, but for now, let's keep going in order of co-sponsors for actual bills that were written. The next one has 26 co-sponsors. This is actually an interesting one. With 26 co-sponsors, this one excludes certain payments of federal pandemic unemployment compensation and other purposes from taxation. In English, your unemployment pay would probably not be taxed if that gets passed, which is nice because it kind of sucks when you get $600 finally after waiting months for it to finally come through, and now you're getting $600 a week and you're like, that's almost like getting a new iPad every single week, but then all of a sudden somebody comes and takes 30% of it away for taxes. That sucks. Now here's a big one. This one's called Make Sure to Learn How to Buy Below Market Value Real Estate and Learn the Psychology of Money by joining Meet Kevin's courses in the link below. Oh, that's a nice one. I'm just kidding. I had to do it. Okay, moving on. Next most popular proposal. This is where a real popular one comes up, the Rent and Mortgage Cancellation Act. This is the one that basically says, hey, look, if you pay rent, you can stop. If you pay a mortgage, you can stop. And if you're a poor landlord because people aren't paying you, well, we're going to have a whole housing fund that you could borrow from as long as you agree to some pretty intense restrictions. Like basically, if you ever want to sell your multifamily building, the government has the first right to buy it from you. And we're going to turn those properties into affordable housing. Yeah, anyway, a lot of weird things in that one. We'll go ahead and just reference the other video I made in detail on the Rent and Mortgage Cancellation Act, but it's interesting to see that this one is up here with 24 co-sponsors.
This guy, his name is Meet Kevin, if you don't know by now. So if you, at the end of the video, he's always talking about investing in Webull and stuff, and his investment courses are all going to be listed on his page. I can paste and copy, and I just might do that for this one. But if you need to find his info, it's at Meet Kevin. That's his channel.
This one has increased in co-sponsorship 3 times. I believe it started at 11, then went to 13, then 17, and now it's up to 24. So you could see kind of like, they're almost like these little viruses. I'm not trying to be topical here, but no, well. They're almost like these little viruses that are growing in Congress, and they gain more traction. So it's kind of interesting to see how they grow. This next one's fascinating. It has 21 co-sponsors, and it does something that should have been done a long time ago. It has to do with real estate and rent. In other words, this bill says if you took on mortgage forbearance, it requires that period of time you didn't make your mortgage payment be added to the end of the loan. So you would just owe and make your mortgage payments for 3 months more if you stop making your payments for 3 months. But it also says, hey, if the landlord waives rent, they'll establish a grant program or kind of a forgivable loan program for landlords who are waiving rent to tenants to sort of make sure both tenants and landlords are protected. This is an interesting one. And with 21 sponsors, that one's doing pretty well. This one with 14 co-sponsors says that TSA employees who get COVID-19 are entitled to a workers' comp. I guess that's kind of like a workplace hazard is the way they're trying to define it, which makes sense. Say yes. That sounds reasonable to me. Moving on and now to one that we are all more familiar with. And this one has 11 co-sponsors, which shows you it's less popular than the TSA workers' comp one. It's the ABC Act, also known as the Boost Act. This is the one that would give everyone $2,000 per month during the pandemic via either direct deposit or a debit card. Then, once the pandemic is over, it would give us $1,000 for an entire 12 months per person.
I
And
am
this one does
happy
not
with
even
that.
have an age limit. If you are living in this country and you've been in this country for at least 3 months prior to the end of the year,
I'm
you
for
get
that.
$2,000. You get $2,000. You got a mom, dad, and 3 kids.
And I can't
You as a
believe that's
family,
got the
y'all
lowest
get, well, what is
traction.
that? 5? That's $10,000. Jeez. Per month until the pandemic is over, and then $1,000 thereafter. So I think we're gonna have a real baby boom here if this one passes. And then we have one here with 9 co-sponsors. This is a big one. I mean, this one right here, wow. This bill provides a small business with $1.5 million or less in gross receipts, aka sales of less than $1.5 million, and not more than 50 full-time employees, a refundable tax credit equal to 30% of its gross receipts for the first taxable year beginning in 19, or up to $120,000. This is a big one, and by big I mean expensive, but also kind of juicy. This means if you had a side hustle and you sold $50,000 worth of gross receipts, you would get a $15,000 tax credit. That's cool. Okay, I'll take it. Like, that's awesome. If you had $300,000 in gross receipts, you would get $90,000 as a
What if I
tax
had
credit,
less?
up
Way
to
less.
$120,000 in basically free money here if you have a side hustle. So this means if you had even a side hustle that made $15,000 last year, that would almost be like getting $4,500 in free money as
Less
a tax
than
credit.
that.
So, well, that's a cool one.
just started.
Restore America's Main Street Act. I like it. Here's one with 7 co-sponsors. Stop overdraft profiteering during COVID-19 Emergency Act of 2020. Well, that is a mouthful, and it basically says no overdraft fees, no NSF fees, non-sufficient funds, and no reporting consumers to credit agencies for overdrafts. All right.
Time for that.
Very, very verbose title. All right, then we have with 4 co-sponsors. We're kind of getting to the bottom of the list here. With 4 co-sponsors to establish requirements for cruise lines to receive federal funds or federal assistance. I don't really see that happening, especially given that most cruise lines don't actually register in the United States because our employment laws are way too strict for cruise lines to ever be profitable. This is why you always see like Nassau on the side of the big cruise ships or something else registered out of whatever other country in the Caribbean. So you'll generally see these other countries like Malta or the Bahamas because they have much more lax regulations for cruise ships. Then we have the Patriot Plan by Mitt Romney, and we have the Heroes Plan introduced by Chuck Schumer. One obviously a Republican, one a Democrat. Both of these are for additional pay for frontline workers or essential workers.
Sorry, I'm
if
always
you're one of those,
fidgeting.
you definitely want to make sure you sign up for life insurance. It takes you, honestly, you could probably do it as fast as 90 seconds on your phone. You could sign up, pay for it, Apple pay for it in 90 seconds. Boom, you got life insurance, family, children, everybody's happy. And then on the flip side, you also can get your 2 free stocks with Webull. If you deposit just $100, you get 2 free stocks with Webull. Check out both of those links down below, right next to the courses. Anyway, the Patriot Plan basically says you can get a pay raise of $12 per hour. 75% of that pay raise would be paid for by the government, 25% paid for by the company. So it's kind of like your company is giving you a bonus of $1, and the government's coming in and saying, we'll turn that into $4. Kind of like waving a magic wand. Anyway, this would enable essential workers to get up to $1,920 more per month. And then, of course, we have the contra to that, which is the Heroes Plan. This gives up to $25,000 in additional pay for essential workers by increasing their pay $13 per hour through 2020. Again, a cap of $25,000. And even offers a $15,000 recruitment incentive to get more people working essentially as essential workers. Then last but not least, we have HR 6681. This one has 1 co-sponsor.
And it's not me.
So it's kind of low on the bucket list. It does say, to amend the Internal Revenue Code to provide for dependents to be taken into account for determining the amount of 2020 recovery rebates. Basically, in English, all dependents who are claimed by somebody else who are over 17 years old, like college students who are 18, 19, 20, 21, who kind of got screwed by the last stimulus plan, and all adult dependents would now be eligible for that extra $500 they should have gotten the first time around. Except the first time around was $1,200 checks, as
And I
long as you
haven't
weren't
even got
claimed
my
by
first
somebody else,
$1,200 check.
and you had to be under 17 years old to get $500, or for the people who claimed you to get $500 for you. So that meant adult dependents and college students got screwed. This would fix that. Now we're expecting a lot of entertainment from Congress tomorrow and the next day as both the Senate and House return to work. So let's stay tuned for some updates. Let's see how this basket transforms. But in the meantime, here's your ranking by Congress of all of the popular stimulus plan ideas.
All right. I always stop him, and he's always got like a weird looking face. All right, guys. I wanted to give you the news from Kevin. Have a great day and stay safe. This is Silkyfeather signing off. Like, subscribe, and share.